Hi everyone, Bradley here. Just about time to put out a new update. Um, and this update, I want to talk about kind of where I'm at medically, what's going on with my health, all that, and then something that's been on my mind recently, which is kind of how symbols and symbolism can change in our lives over the course of our life, and how we interact with that in our relationship with these symbols. Um, Overall, I'm doing very, very well. Um, Everything like personally in my life is going very well, which is unusual for me. Um, to feel so positive and like optimistic about things, um, despite all of the not great things that are happening in our world. Roe v. Um, and in a lot of ways, literally and metaphorically, the world's on fire. But despite all that, I'm doing really well. um, the treatments that I have been on, that include the dotatite injectable isotope for that targeted treatment, have been extremely effective. I had a scan um, a couple of weeks ago that showed no disease progression. Everything's kind of just chilling where it is, which is kind of the best that I can hope for at this point with this treatment. Um, it's the easiest treatment that I've had so far in terms of like side effects and things like that. I go in once every 2 months, get this injection, takes about 5 hours, me being in the hospital, come out, and the next day I feel sick, maybe for the day or the next day, a day or two, and then I'm good. This, I believe, is also the longest. I'm gonna knock on some wood here. But the longest that any of my treatments have been effective for. So it's going really well. So it's only a 4 dose um, treatment cycle, I guess. So I've had my first 3 doses, and unfortunately, my last dose, there's been some issue with the manufacturer, so it's had to have gotten rescheduled a couple of times at this point. So I really should have gotten it like a month and a half ago, and I'm getting it next month, hopefully. Um, and so that is what it is. In this day and age, you can't expect everything to run super smoothly. Um, and also, I'm kind of thinking that it might extend that effective range out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, push it out a couple of months. Give me a little couple months on the back end. Um, so hopefully, that is the case. Um, I've been off of my TPN. My TPN has been removed, so I no longer have any lumens. I have a nice little scar on my tattoo here. I don't mind it. It's just a little flesh offering, I guess. Um, and so I'm off of the TPN. I'm back to eating healthy, eating regular. Lacrosse finished a couple of weeks ago. We had an amazing season, both the JV and the varsity. You know, it was really good in a lot of ways. And for me specifically, it was one of those things that, you know, lacrosse is a medicine game, right? From the indigenous people, um, of this land, of this country, you know, before us white people got here. Um, and it's a medicine game. It really truly is, and that was what this season really did for me. You know, I came into this season still being on my TPN, still not feeling great, still not being in a super positive, or not even positive, just a super neutral headspace. And working with the guys and being back involved in the sport and being around that exchange of energy, being around that life and that connection and that relationship really healed me and accelerated the healing that was going on. There's no way that I would be feeling as well as I do today if it wasn't for this last season, if it wasn't for the guys on the team, if it wasn't for the other coaches, if it wasn't for, you know, the sport itself. And so I've tried to kind of continue that motivation. I've uh, been walking Freya again, which was something that I couldn't really do when I was hooked up to my TPN. I've been losing weight, which is weird to say because even what I'm at right now, which is the lowest weight I've been in 6-7 months, something like that, since last September, is still the heaviest that I had been pre-diagnosis. um, so yeah, I'm working at getting back into my physical shape. I've been doing push-ups and pull-ups again, and trying to get back, because it's not just that I gained weight, I atrophied a lot. My muscles atrophied a lot. And I've recently started to date somebody who's amazing. We knew each other in high school, and we reconnected, you know, after 10 plus years of not seeing each other, and it was, you know, just immediate connection there, which I'm overjoyed with. I That was something that I've struggled with a lot. It was kind of wrapping my mind around, you know, being alone, not having an intimate relationship, um, you know, during my treatment, during my decline, during whatever will happen, and um, part of something that happened, you know, that's been going on for me is part of that processing of really coming to that realization and really feeling that and knowing that. And so I, you know, finally surrendered to that idea and said, you know what? Okay. You know, that is what it is. That's totally fine. If it's not, that's fine too. Um, I don't look at surrendering as giving up, right? I'm not laying on my back, white flag in the air. It's more of I've been in this battle with a rapid river current and I'm trying to swim up it, right? I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this relationship, I want this, whatever it is, and I'm swimming against this energy, this current, and surrendering isn't giving up and drowning and saying that current won. That current defeated me, it conquered me, whatever surrender typically means. I'm floating on top. This current is carrying me wherever it carries me, right? That might be to a raging sea with hurricanes and cyclones and all this, but it also might be a beautiful lagoon, or whatever it is, however this metaphor works. And so I finally surrendered to that, and within the next couple of months I reconnected with the beautiful woman that I'm seeing now. So all of this good stuff in my life is very, very strange to me personally. I'm not the type of person to lean into the positive. I'll lean into the negative. I'll lean in to the depression, and I'll lean into that, and and once again, like, I try not to wallow, but I will feel those feelings, and feeling happiness and joy and contentment is unusual for me, is something that I'm uncomfortable with. And with all of these good things that have been happening to me, I've decided to lean in, and to feel those, right? And for me, it sucks and it's scary and whatever, because I know it's not going to last, right? I have been very upfront with the woman that I'm seeing, that at a certain point I'm gonna have to say goodbye. I'm gonna have to let her go. I'm going to have to say, I know that you want to be around me, but uh, I know that that's a tether that I will eventually have to cut. In the same way that I am going to have to cut ties with all of this. Which leads me to kind of what I've been thinking about recently. But I want to finish my current thought. So I've decided to lean into this, even though I know that it's going to end, to change. Just like Buddha said, suffering is inevitable, and one of the roots of suffering is impermanence. So that's, just having to confront that in this highly concentrated, highly magnified way is a thing. But I really decided to lean in, and and I kind of jokingly, was talking to my partner that, that this is a plus for her, that me dying of cancer and living this way is a plus for her, because it means that I'm fucking balling out every time that I'm with her. We're going to dinners, we're getting gifts, we're doing flowers, the whole 9 yards. And I know that that's also something that it will be temporary too. That another part of the reason that I'm balling out now is because I might not be able to ball out in the future. Um, so yeah, this talk about cutting these ties, severing these ties. Um, this thought, this kind of the stuff that I want to talk about with you guys here really started actually when the draft to overthrow Roe v. Wade came out, and it really got me thinking um, about the ladies in my life, the females in my life, and the I love symbolism. I think that to really know a group's ideology, to know a group's soul, you look at their symbols that they use and the rationale for why they use it, right? It's interesting to me that the symbols that are generally used on the left are pride flags. They are symbols of inclusion and acceptance and love. And then you see the flags flying next to American flags at the January 6th insurrection. You have Confederate flags, you have neo-Nazi flags, you have just Nazi flags. And there needs to be some question about where those people's values overlap with other people who support the people they support. So I think that it's really interesting. You look at all symbolisms, and one of the things that I think that religion does very well is to harness these symbols, and I love um, Hindu the Hindu pantheon, right? Everybody says that it's um, a polytheism, right? These are all different gods and goddesses, and they all are different things, which is true to some degree, but it's more that they represent aspects of one unknowable divine being, one thing. In the same way that Christians use different saints to represent different aspects or different connections, avenues to God. People pray to Virgin Mary for certain types of uh, intercessions. You know, um, Saint Francis, Saint, Damphna, all of these different people kind of represent these different facets of the divine. So Hindu gods and goddesses do a similar thing. And the goddess that has always, always, always intrigued me, that has always resonated with me, that I've always been drawn to is Kali, Kali. Kali, Kali, Makali, Kali Ma, same thing, but Ma's at the end. And for those of you who don't know who Kali Ma is, you might have seen her depiction somewhere and gone, wow, that's really scary. She is a goddess who represents a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I was introduced to her, I want to say, through the Beatles movie Help, where Ringo puts on a ring that's like special to this Kali cult. And if I'm remembering correctly, like this ring means that it's whoever wears the ring is the next human sacrifice to Kali. And so they spend the next, over the course of the movie, this cult is trying to capture Ringo, get the ring back, and the Beatles are, there's wild shenanigans about this. Then, she's in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. She's the goddess behind the priest who's ripping out the people's hearts and turning them into whatever sacred stones they were doing in that movie. That's also Kali. It is and it isn't. So Kali looks terrible. She's sometimes called the terrible mother. Sure, her skin is black or dark blue or dark purple, and she has wild dark hair, unkempt dark hair. And she has a long Gene Simmons-esque kiss tongue that lolls and is covered, and is sometimes depicted as dripping in blood, and she has big fangs. And she has in her multiple arms, she has swords and tridents, and she's holding the severed head of a demon, and there's a bowl underneath collecting the blood of this demon. And she has a garland of skulls or severed heads around her, and she's naked except for a skirt of severed limbs, arms and legs. And she's standing on the body of her husband, Shiva, who's laying on the ground prostrate before her. And I have a picture. I've done a few drawings of Kali, a few paintings of Kali, and I'm not technically savvy enough or have my software up to be able to put pictures on screen, so I apologize. I'm just going to have to show you my drawing rather than giving you more imaging. It is not colored, so you're going to have to put the color in yourself. But that is one of my depictions of Kali. So you can see the lolling tongue, the heads, the limbs, the demon severed heads, the sword, and her standing on top of her husband. So, with this terrible imagery, she has been partially false, partially true, considered the goddess of death. And that's not true, because there is a god of death in the Hindu pantheon. There's a number of gods and goddesses that are associated with death, and Kali is absolutely associated with death. However, she's not the goddess of death. She is the goddess of time. She is the goddess of infinite cosmic time. And in the grand scheme of things, that means that she is the goddess of death. Nothing can escape her. Everything changes. Everything atrophies. Everything entropies. Everything dissipates. Everything dies. From us as mortal human meat sacks to the fundamentals of our universe. Of black holes will eventually consume and dissipate every particle of matter and energy and information. And that is Kali. She is the void that was before the Big Bang. She was the birth of the universe. That is what her black skin represents. It's that cosmic birthing chamber, that cosmic womb that we all, every being in every universe, in every galaxy, comes from Kali and will eventually return to her. Her wild hair and lolling tongue and fangs represents the mercilessness of nature, of that cycle of life and death, that nothing can escape it. And in there is mercy. In there is her mercy. Her mercy is liberation. She is the goddess of ego liberation. So when you look at her and you see the garland of skulls and the severed limbs and these weapons that she's carrying around so menacingly and threateningly, those weapons are her tools to sever our ego ties, to sever the things that we cling to sever the things that our ego, which serves us well enough here in this material Rajasic world, right? There's a reason that we evolved with an ego. It protects us, it shelters us, it allows us to survive, and in a lot of ways it also allows us to survive but doesn't allow us to thrive. It is constricting and controlling and says, oh no, we know that the world is in this way, when in reality there might be a bigger, better way that our ego just can't handle. So Kali comes and severs those ties. So those skulls and those garland of severed limbs are the egos that she has liberated from people. She is the vehicle of liberation and love. She is that mother that loves us so much that she gave birth to everything and to everyone so that we can have the experience that we have here now. And she is also there when our ego ties are completely severed, and that we as souls, as spirits, as consciousness, as light, are entirely severed from this meat ego puppet and return to her, to return to the source, to return to that bardo, that place of in between, that place of pre-existence and infinite potential, right? The place that we existed as spirit, as soul, before we entered this material existence, right? Before we said, yeah, we'll go there and do that thing for the time being. She's in that place. She is that bardo. She is the proximal. She is that creation and the destruction and the sustainable. And she resonates so much with me because her symbolism has changed over the course of my life. When I was sick, when I was being lied to by my depression, by my pain, by my suffering, by my wounds, she was the goddess of death. She was the one that I wanted to return to be dead, to be with her so that she could just end everything for me. And as I have developed in my own healing, in my own holistic healing, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, funny to say now, physically, but as I've developed in my healing, my relationship with her has changed as well. And it's deepened into this absolute knowing and absolute faith that my life is in her hands, that I will receive the liberation that I need, and that I will return to her as I need. And I feel the call that so many other young people feel in our country, in our world, to go there and to be with her. Prematurely or not. And when I hear about things like overturning Roe v. Wade and these school shootings, I can't help but having so many mixed feelings about everything. I'm going to give another example of how symbols change and how our relationships with symbols change, and how we need to look at those symbols, to look at the meaning behind them, to look at where that meaning came from, right? There's a reason the Nazis used the swastika as a symbol of power. It's because it had been a symbol of power for people across the world for thousands and tens of thousands of years. Buddhism, Hindus, native indigenous people used the swastika for a variety of, it was a symbol of power, and they took that symbol of power and flipped it. And they said, it is a symbol of power. You're right. And it was a symbol of power, of love, and the creation of energy in a positive way. And we're going to flip it. And now it is only that symbol to us. I remember going to China and when I was 9, 10, 11, maybe something like that, and seeing a swastika on a Buddhist symbol and being so confused, going, whoa, like, this is a place of worship, like, why are they Nazis? And I didn't realize until much later in my life, and having done the research, that symbol had changed. So the symbol that I want to talk about is something that many of you have seen, I'm sure, is the Punisher logo, the Punisher skull. And one thing, I don't have a drawing of it or a picture I can show, so look that up. Just Google Punisher logo, and you'll see and go, oh, I've seen that on the back of many trucks, many it'll be many Blue Lives Matter stripes, American flags will be going through it, and you'll say, yeah, the Punisher, I know what that is. The East Catholic men's basketball team uses the Punisher logo in some of their swag and some of their gear. It's a symbol that became a mainstream use within the last decade, popularized in the mainstream use. It started off in certain military units in the Middle East, Iraq and Afghanistan, and quickly became adopted by law enforcement as it moved back into the States, and now is adopted by many right-wing, Blue Lives Matter, Republican, law and order groups. And if you trace this symbol back even further, it started with the creation of the Punisher. And for those of you who don't know who the Punisher is a comic book character. He's an anti-hero. So not a typical hero. He's not a good guy who does good things for good reasons. He's a morally questionable character who does mostly good things for generally good reasons. Frank Castle, the original Punisher, the character, was an FBI guy, one of the best FBI agents, and he worked against the mafia and organized crime, and was a great tactician, skilled strategician. I don't even know if that's a word, but basically could use any firearm and was skilled in hand-to-hand combat, and the pinnacle of what law enforcement wants to be. Clear sense of justice, does the investigations, all of this. And one day, him and his family get gunned down by members of organized crime in a park. And so his family is wiped out and he is left for dead. And that is where the Punisher is born. He came out of that trauma and said, okay, law enforcement in the way that we have it now doesn't work. I'm going to take it into my own hands and punish these people as they need to be punished. So he essentially weaponizes his skill set, weaponizes his law enforcement background, and becomes a vigilante and becomes the judge, jury, and executioner for initially organized crime. But there are plenty of instances that he has killed innocents. There's plenty of instances that he has killed for not good moral reasons. And the fact that killing isn't a moral thing anyway, setting aside that fact. There's an entire line of comic books that are The Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe. There's a comic book series that he literally wipes out every single hero and villain of the Marvel Universe. This man, this Punisher, this vigilante, wipes out all of the people that have been heroes to our children. Captain America, Iron Man, Wolverine, all of these people who are questionable amongst themselves. I'm not saying anything about any other superhero here. But that is the symbol that our law enforcement has donned. The creator of this character, of the Punisher, of Frank Castle, has come out and spoken against law enforcement's use and adopting this character's logo. because the character was created as a critique of law enforcement taking matters into their own hands. This was not a celebration of law enforcement and what law enforcement should be. This was a critique of how dangerous law enforcement, with the power they wield, the training and the equipment that they have, can be. And you see this every single time an unarmed black man is shot. An unarmed anyone is shot. Anytime that police and law enforcement and the government as a whole wield their power with zero consequences, without accountability, without due process. And that is who our law enforcement largely has adopted. Our military, members of our military, has largely adopted. People who are for law and order have adopted this symbol about vigilante justice. Immoral vigilante justice. That the ends justice justify the means killing. You saw this with the Buffalo mass shooter. He felt that it was his duty to protect his white country from these immigrants, from these black people, from these people who were replacing his white countrymen. And he felt vindicated and justified to go and murder innocent civilians because of that. He felt he could be the punisher in that situation because we have adopted these symbols and adopted this ideology. And we've adopted the tools of this ideology. Now, the vigilante that I admire, Batman. His family was also gunned down. He experienced an unimaginable trauma at an incredibly young age. And he honed himself into a tool so that that personally would never happen to him, but that he took that and made sure that it would not happen to others again. And yes, Batman is problematic in the fact how effective is he for continually putting these people in Arkham Asylum and having them continually escape, and how many bodies are ultimately on the Batman's hands by not permanently subduing the Joker the third, fourth, fifth time that he's escaped. And yes. And yet, for the most part, Batman has stayed true to his values of guns are bad, murder is bad, he will not kill, he will not use guns. And once again, there's exceptions. And he represents accountability. He represents, when he captures people, he doesn't murder them and torture them. He might torture them a little bit. He doesn't kill them and say, you're guilty, your punishment has been served, justice has been served. No. Batman is the world's greatest detective. He goes and compiles evidence. He captures them and brings them in with evidence and works with law enforcement to have cases upheld. And sure, Gotham's criminal justice system isn't the best, and we saw that in the recent Batman movie. But he is part of that. He is part of that accountability, right? And we as individuals need to be part of that. Adopt the symbol of Batman to be the accountability for these institutions, to be the shining light of justice, of hope, rather than vengeance and punishment. It's telling that police units across the country are starting to remove the slogan, protect and serve. If you watch the Transformers movies, any Decepticon, which are the bad guys, who transform into law enforcement vehicles, they have a slogan as well. And that slogan is to punish and enslave. If you watch the last Batman movie, I think that illustrates what I'm talking about perfectly. At the beginning of that movie, Batman was a symbol of vengeance. That was how he was addressed through the entire movie. They called him Vengeance, Vengeance, Vengeance. And that was how he viewed himself. He was the person to punish the wrongdoers, to come in and to correct them, and to exact vengeance and justice upon them. And by the end of the movie, he realized that vengeance was not what he needed to be, but he needed to be a symbol of hope. He needed to be a symbol of what Gotham can aspire to be, what the citizens can aspire to be, what the government and law enforcement and judicial system can aspire to be. That was one of the first Batman movies to show Batman not only as a crime fighter, but as a first responder. Batman is a symbol of hope. So keep this in mind when you're seeing these symbols. Go and investigate. Do your research. Do the research. And don't just stop with the research that supports your position. The Punisher was adopted by law enforcement, Republican, right wing, whatever, from law enforcement, from military, from the Punisher. And if you look at where the Punisher's creator got that logo, got that symbol from, it's a Totenkopf. It is the skull and crossbone insignia used by Hitler's SS. It is a Nazi symbol specifically designed to instill fear in others and power in the wearer. That when people know that, they say, or when people see that, they go, I know who you are. You are an SS. You are an angel of death. That is where the Punisher logo came from. It was inspired by this Nazi symbolism. And that is what we have inscribed on law enforcement. You see cop cars with it. Blue Lives Matter, guys. Vengeance matters. Guns matter. Replacement theory matters. And they matter because of their symbols and because of the power behind them and the ability for that power to animate and to inform who we are and how we walk in this world. Going back to Kali, the reason that she is depicted in pop culture now as this terrible mother, as this goddess of death in, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, in Help, is because during British colonialism in India, the British saw this terrible woman, this powerful woman that these individuals revered and that worshipped, and they also had healthy respect for, bordered on fear. They didn't deify her, they demonified her. They said, she is a goddess of death. She is associated with these band of bandits who killed and tortured people. They are a Kali cult. They do that in her name. And through this colonial restructuring of her symbol, she turned into something to be feared rather than something to be respected and held dear and loved and to be emulated within ourselves. When I meditate, I listen to Kalima Stotra, and its translation basically is the 1,000 names of Kali. And so this meditation is just a person, I believe in Sanskrit, reading, lyrically saying, poetically saying these 1,000 names of Kali. And I have the translation here, and I'm going to read some of them to you because I think that it really gives an idea of Kali Ma, but also the power of women in general, I think. Because Kali Ma, she is a feminine divine goddess. She is in women, and she is in the feminine part of all men. So, she who raises the trident in her hand, she who wears space, she whose sound is terrible, she whose beauty creates, she who is the vehicle of passion, she who is without any other, she who is the ultimate intoxication, she who is the great mind of thinker, she is the foremost mind or thinker, she is the giver of preeminence, she who resides in the ocean of purity, she who is hidden knowledge, she who is that has been heard, she who is that which is remembered, she who is thought, she who is unthinkable, she who is sleep, she who is partially awake, she who is the oblations of I am one with God, she who is nourishment, she who is forgiveness, she who is the great goal of existence, she who is the blue goddess of knowledge, she who is the spirit of all sound, she who is the mother of all bodies, she who is conquest, she who is victory, she who is rivers and oceans, she who is the expression of all, she who is the illuminator, she who resides in silence. One of the favorite things, one of the favorite like angsty things that I love to say to my mom is, I didn't choose to be born. You know, I didn't want to be here. I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose to be born, Mom. One of my favorite things, one of my favorite like stereotypical teenage angst things. And it's true. I didn't choose for this. I don't know if I would have if I had a choice. And I know that many people feel the same way, and many people feel much more strongly that they would not have chosen this. And when I hear people talk about children having souls the moment of conception, that soul enters the mother's body at moment of fertilization. Okay. Okay. I can handle that. To me, soul, spirit, my soul, my spirit is my connection to God, is the tether that I have here to God, to love, to light, to acceptance, to inclusion, to love that is so incomprehensible and all encompassing and so beautiful. It is unknowable. That is what God is to me, and that is what my soul is to me. Soul is that divine spark. It is that Holy Spirit. And I believe that not only children at the moment of conception have that. I believe that all creatures have that. All animals. All winged creatures, four-legged, two-legged, swimming, bacterial, viral, alien species, and I believe that the wind has that. I believe that the rocks have that. I believe that our mother, the earth, has that. This divine spark. The water, the air, the stars, the planets, everything. So, okay. That divine spark enters that child, that Holy Spirit enters that child the moment of conception. So, at the moment of conception, there may not be a physical meat puppet self that can make a decision, that can make a choice. that can live on its own, that can grow up to be a person with whatever potential and possibility that that person may have. But it does have that divine spark. It does have that love, that amazing boundary defining love. And I know for a fact, hands down, that if that child, if that spark of divine love had the option to make a choice that would save its mother, greater suffering, whether that is due to medical complications, whether that is due to medical complications for the mother or the child, whether that is due to the trauma of the pregnancy being due to incest or rape, the trauma that the pregnancy just wasn't the right time, the trauma of the thought of raising a child in this world. Whatever the reason is, I know that that child would make that choice. That child would make the choice to have their mother live as fully and as wholly and as healthily as they possibly could be, because of that love, because of that divine spark, because of that connection to God that we all have. And it cannot be up to anyone else besides that woman and whoever else they want to be involved in that conversation. Whether that is medical practitioners, whether that is their partner, whether that is their family, whether that is their friends, whether that is members of the church, whoever they want to include in that conversation. And it is up to no one else besides that woman and who they choose to be a part of it, to make that decision, because that decision will be one of the most hardest decisions that they will ever make. And the fact that our government and the highest court has chosen to go against the will of the people and endanger the lives of women and trans people everywhere because of this ruling is atrocious. It does not come from that place of love. It does not come from that place of divine spark. It is not informed by the Holy Spirit. It's another method of control, of seizing power, retaining power. And I am sorry. As a man, I live in awe of women. And that divine feminine that is in every single one of them. They all embody Kali Ma. Not only women, all people. Men have that divine feminine Trans people have that divine feminine. And that's something to be revered and respected. Thank you all for being here with me and listening to this rambling. And thank you if you did stick with me to the end. I really appreciate it. I know I'm verbose and I've been saying I'm trying to cut down my videos, and you know what, I might not have that be a goal anymore. Or at least I'll stop feeling bad about it when I reach the hour mark. But as always, thank you so much for being here with me, for connecting in this way. You know, it's one of the ways that we transcend time and space and life and death. I'm talking to you very much alive and well here, but you might be watching it when I'm no longer able to connect in a way that either of us are used to. So I'm glad to be here with you. And thank you for being here with me and for listening. And, you know, I'm not trying to change hearts and minds, I'm trying to give new perspectives, different ways of thinking about things. Because my perspective and my lens on life has so radically shifted that, you know, it's good to share that sometimes. Good to share a different lens with people. So thank you all. I am so grateful for you. Please continue to send thoughts and prayers. If you are so inclined to donate financially, if that's how you want to support, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Otherwise, please take the time to reflect on, you know, whatever it is that comes up for you in these videos, and to act. I want to be a catalyst of change. Change takes action. Oh, thank you. Mitaku Yewasi.